Alright, we ready? I squish all bugs. Are we ready?
As writers, I think we have a lot to learn from the first season of Stranger Things, so I'm going to break down 11
Stranger Things season 1 was
techniques
so
that we
good.
can borrow for our own storytelling. And obviously it had to be a list of 11, right? 1. Use red shirts. So what exactly is a red shirt? Well, it's just a minor character that gets killed off early. And the term originally came from
all of the characters in the first chapter are red shirts. There are so many red shirt throwaway characters. Except these red shirts are somewhat important.
Star Trek, because everyone who wore a red shirt was a goner. Now in
new
Stranger
clothes,
Things,
noted.
there are 2 examples of red shirts. I don't think you remember the first one, but I know you remember the second one. In the very first episode of the entire series, there is...
Oh wait, I missed Tanuki before Mousekin. Damn, I mostly wear blue and black. Yeah, I mostly wear like blue and like gray. Blue, gray, light, dark blue, and like... Yeah, that's about it. A red shirt, Callie, is a character that is intended to die. And most of the time, it's like, in some way foreshadowed that the character is gonna die. Help, I'm perishing! I have all I have are brown clothes. Well, then you're good to go, Raymond Down.
Is a scientist.
You're just shit now.
Running down a hall with flashing lights, and he gets into an elevator. He's obviously scared, and then he gets eaten by a monster. It's a great example of a prologue, and it shows that, hey, this
the original
is a show
Star Trek, with 3 exceptions, anyone who wore a red shirt was going to die. Yeah, that was literally how you could differentiate what you knew the important characters were. By their ranks, which was their shirt color. And you knew that all of basically anyone without a rank was going to die, which were all the red shirts.
The stakes are high, like, people gonna die. Now, the second red shirt example is a beloved character, Barb. Barb is sort of the counterpoint to Nancy, but really, a large part of her role...
It was so brutal because Barb disappeared, and it was like they eliminated her from the story. No one talked about her. No one said anything. No one tried to find her. She just fucking disappeared from that pool slide. And it was like the character never existed. That pissed me off. That they never even tried. It was like every character forgot about Barb. She's the most forgettable character. To be fair, most red shirts were security officers that would be at high risk. The Yoma, Scotty, and Ahura were the only exceptions. Looks like they didn't really cared about her. No, apparently they didn't, Raymond.
The story is to die. But why? Why do you want to introduce a minor character only to kill them off?
No, I don't think so.
What this does is
I really
it makes
don't
the
think
viewer
so.
or the reader more worried for the rest of your main characters. If they're willing to kill Barb, then they might be willing to kill Hopper, or Will, or Joyce. Basically, George R.R. Martin's the storyline and puts everyone on edge. The second technique we can learn from Stranger Things is multiply your antagonists.
Closer to the non-red shirt, more likely to die. Fine. So it is technically the weekend. Okay, I'll give you that. Whoops. Shit.
As writers, number 3, choose...
No, we want number 2. Multiply your antagonists. Your antagonists. Okay, let's count how many antagonists we have from the very beginning. So, first antagonist... It's going to be the goblins rounding up the beastmen. Then you upgrade from the goblins to the shadow species controlling the beastmen. Then the reveal about Fafnir. then reveal about Monarch. So during this tiny period, both, like, the main characters think that, like, absolutely nobody's. Did you buy my book on July 24th? Yes, I did, Callie. Because that was the day it was supposed to arrive, and that was the day I checked it and said my payment plan, like, my payment needed to be revised. And I was like, okay, so I just re-put it through and it worked. And I was like, okay, I don't know what the fuck that was about. But, so, that I'm pretty sure that's why it didn't show up before Callie. Was because, for some reason, like, I checked it every day, and then the day that it said it was going to arrive, it said that the payment plan didn't go through. And I was like, what do you mean? It's been like 4 days. Like, as soon as they're ready to, like, put it on, they're like, wait, this isn't paid for. What the fuck? During a small part, both Fafnir and Monarch are enemies. I made $5.39. Nice, Callie. That's pretty decent. Because, yeah, that's like $8 Canadian. Write more and I'll buy more. How about that, Callie? As soon as you get To Be Magic finished, or To Be Music finished, like, I'm so excited for that one.
Antagonists. I think most writers usually think of the antagonist.
So we have like 5 antagonists.
Antagonist in their book. But what we can learn from Strange...
Oh, and then there's Anima, of course. Like, you know, and then there's the Viceroy. So there's a lot. Good work, Callie. We're on ads, boys! It's ad time. Might save money to get a book designer. I mean, if you have the money, like we said, it's worth it, like, to a point, right? Like, spending $300-400, but spending like $2,000 may not be worth it. But spending like $300-400, but then, just like Bookfox said, spending $3 or $4,000 to make sure your cover is fucking amazing is where it's at. Because I hate when people say, oh, don't judge a book by a cover. But, you know, if you can't make a good cover, who thinks you can make a good fucking book? So you better make a good fucking cover. Words of the almighty Asmon. Thanks, book. Thanks, blessed. Thanks, Atox. No worry, Callie. You know, it starts out small, but you slowly work your way up. And appreciating that small community is what gets everything else. Because then it's the more people you have, the more word of mouth power that you have, right? And the more people that talk about your stuff, the more marketing is, like, basically free. That's why I always talk about my book, because that's free advertising and building hype for the day that my book actually comes out in 20 years. Okay, we are back from ads.
Stranger Things is you can have multiple antagonists. The first one you probably thought of is the Demogorgon. If you crossed a Venus flytrap with a bodybuilder and gave it anger issues, that would be a Demogorgon. And the second one is Dr. Martin Brenner, who basically abducts kids with special powers and then treats them like lab rats. I think it's really important to have both types of antagonists, right? Both the human antagonist and sort of like a monster antagonist as well. The monster antagonist gives you this very visceral, animalistic fear, while the human antagonist gives you this kind cruelty that's just torturous and psychologically painful. And I should add that there's even more sub-antagonists. You have Agent Connie Fraser, who goes around assisting Brenner in various ways. And you also have the bullies at school who picks on Mike and the rest of the game. Essentially, don't be afraid to have lots of antagonists in your story. Number 3, choose curiosity.
Curiosity over mystery. This is a big one, and that's the you can't a little bit of information. And that's going to be the the curiosity factor that I unleash in the first chapter with the moon. Because until they get past the first mountain pass and get out onto the plains, past the canopy, you can't fully see the sky. So you would probably still think that there's a moon. But once you get past that point, or even maybe we could just do it, well, I mean, the Light's tree, using the Light's tree as if it's the moon as a replacement until you get further away from the tree, and it becomes darker and darker at night, and at that point, it's like you're starting to realize that there is no moon in the sky. So it's not like immediately people are talking about, you know, there'll be like the plays and stuff like that and like talking about the history of the Beastmen, but it won't be like immediately thrown in your face. Some characters like, yeah, but there is no moon, right? Until you get out there and the characters are staring at the stars and, you know, describing what the stars look like, and you're like, aren't you guys like missing something? You know? And it happens multiple times, so it's not like, okay, well, that was a moonless night. It's like, no. Moon just don't exist. And it builds that curiosity of, oh, well, if the moon doesn't exist, then what happened to it? Because it obviously did exist, because we talked about it before. Instead of just being, like, not mentioning the moon at all. Because then people are like, well, maybe this world just doesn't have a moon. Right? And it's not as powerful a curiosity as saying, okay, well, people know what the moon is, but he's not showing the moon. The writer's not showing, or the author's not showing the moon, so obviously the moon isn't there. And there's no other light source than the tree itself. So obviously, there's something fucked up with the moon. And then looking at the landscape, you should be able to tell, okay, maybe the moon, I want the reader to be able to piece together that the moon fell out of the sky without telling them that the moon fell out of the sky. Just by the way of the environment of the world. To be like, this is too... Like, the characters think it's normal, but you, as a person that knows anything about geography, be like, that's not normal at all! What do you mean pothole fields, where there's just, like, endless fields of craters? That's a little fucked up. Or, you know, like, mountain ridges that go in basically a complete circle. And then branch out in, like, almost like a star. Because of how the continents smash together. And I still need to figure out, like, at that point, would the mountains morph into one mountain? Would they just be two mountains together? So there'd be, like, this tiny valley between that you could, like, you know, some sort of cave system that goes through the entirety of the mountains and have some sort of beastmen maybe live in those caves. A skull island. Well, it'd be something along those lines, but it's the fact of there are no islands, Raymond. This planet only has one singular continent, and there are no small islands, even on the outskirts of the land, because all of the landmass got crushed together, and so everything else is just underwater. And, like, the water levels all got fucked up because now there's no longer a tide, so everything's just even across the board. But that's being, like, kind of fucked up a bit by the fact that the octopi and the other dragons are trying to recreate and continue to keep the currents in the ocean going, despite not having the tide to fuel them. But yeah, lots of backstory drop over curiosity. Because we want a lot of curiosity. And the only mystery that we really have is who put the calm sphere where it did. Who initiated the entire story. And again, I don't even know if we'll ever find that out. It'll only be inferred, but it will never actually truly be stated. Because the Viceroy turns before they could ever figure out if it was him or not. Maybe Gaia says that it was her? But who knows?
Complexity over mystery. So if you were writing a character like Elle who has these amazing superpowers, I think a lot of writers would try to keep that a secret for a little while, you know, to keep the reader guessing. But instead, in Stranger Things, they show her powers basically right away. In one of her first scenes, when she's getting fed in a diner, she looks at a fan and concentrates on it and shuts it off with her mind. Showing that up front rather than keeping it a mystery makes readers very, very curious about how those powers will develop in the future. So later on, when she ends up, you know, flipping a car or something super powerful like that, it makes sense because we realized from the beginning that she had powers. 4, employ misdirection. So the central problem in the entire first season is that Will is gone, right? He's been abducted by a monster. And everyone is searching for Will, wondering whether he's dead or alive. So what misdirection does is it leans away from the way the story's gonna end. It tries to convince the reader or the viewer that things are gonna turn out differently than they actually will. So at the end of the season, spoiler alert, Will's found, right? He's alive. What that means is the storyline has to work really, really hard to convince you he's not gonna be alive. They're gonna find him and he's gonna be dead. So how do they do this misdirection? Well, they find Will's body in the quarry. I mean, this is very strong misdirection. They literally find his body. Of course he's not alive. And then later, Hopper realizes it's just a fake body. It's just cotton fluff and lies in a kid-shaped package. So in your story, just work really hard on misdirection and try to convince the reader that what they want to happen in the end is not what's going to happen. 5, make superpowers have a cost. So
yeah, make superpowers have a cost. This would be the thing of the limits of a system show more about that system than its operations. Say that. Fake Kid. Classic. Classic.
every time that Elle uses her powers, what happens to her? Her nose bleeds. And there's a very good storytelling reason why her nose needs to bleed. I mean, really, it's showing that she doesn't have unlimited cheat codes, right? There's a cost to every time that she uses her powers. If her powers don't have a cost, then there's not much tension in the storyline, right? We're just like, oh, let me guess, she's gonna use her powers to get out of this one. But if her powers have a physical cost, then we wonder, is this one gonna be too much? Is she not gonna be able to win in this confrontation? It's also a great visual sign that she's using her powers. Like sometimes you don't know whether she's using her powers, like when the bully pees himself, and then you look at Elle and you're like, oh, nosebleed, okay. I guess that means she's using her powers. And honestly, a lot of superheroes that you see have some sort of downside to their powers. I'm thinking like Rogue and X-Men. Yes, she can absorb other people's powers and memories through skin contact, but it comes at a very high personal cost for her because she can't safely touch people that she loves. 6, create contrast.
Create contrast. I think we do this well, especially between like the misdirection in thinking that Fafnir is the main enemy. You're like, well, it's this massive city, like multi-city sized dragon that's controlling essentially what is the antagonistic species. I like how Araki works powers with the stands. Like in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Like, a weak stand can totally win a fight. Yeah. It's all about how you... It's about the way that you use it, right? And being intelligent about it. One of my favorite examples of this is actually, like, you know, combining different things. You go Kaioken, and then you raise your power level, and all of that stuff. But it's like, just not understanding that, you're pretty fucked.
568 Tresvigentillion 947 Duovigentillion 320 Unvigentillion 956 Vigentillion 872 Novemdecillion 960 Octodecillion 874
Okay, guys, on the count.
Septidecillion 896 Sexdecillion 752
On the end of the TTS, we're all gonna scream in chat, okay?
Decillion 750 Duodecillion 293 Undecillion 670 Decillion 923 No Ga.
Let it all out! Psychological moments versus physical moments. There we go, guys. Do you feel the energy rising? Do you feel yourself getting grounded by your revelations to the point you're like, yes, I know what to do now? It was all just a clog in my head that needed to be turned.
There is a great scene in the first season where there is a contrast between Barb getting murdered by the Demogorgon and Nancy's little smoochy going on with Steve. Now, the innocence of that romantic scene makes what's happening to Barb even more horrific. And you want to look for places where you can do that in your own fiction to smash two very different storylines together so that the contrast is really sharp and really makes a distinction. This reminds me of the scene in the second Matrix when you have the machines burrowing down and trying to kill all the humans, and you also have Trinity and Neo making love. And it's such a wonderful contrast between like the rigid duty of machines and the possibility of affection and love with humanity. Now you might be thinking, oh, this is only a cinematic technique, how do I pull this off in a book? But I have read books where you'll have a paragraph where every single sentence alternates to a different scene. For example, one sentence describing the sensory aspects of the scene, and then the very next sentence is more like a philosophical pondering on it, and then back to the sentences, and then back to the philosophical ponder. Or you can do it with two completely different scenes.
I like those ones, the long ass awkward sex scene in the Matrix.
Offer love triangles.
Yep. So weird. Offer love triangles.
So Nancy is torn between Steve, who is kind of a douchebag but has amazing hair, and Jonathan, who is kind of nerdy and dweeby, but he is exceptionally kind. Now, whenever I bring up love triangles as like a good strategy for writers to employ, I always get a lot of pushback. And I think it's because readers have been burned by bad love triangles. Yeah. And by bad love triangles, I just mean ones that manipulate the reader rather than being organic choices between two options. Anyway, I am holding firm to my line. I really do think love triangles are such a fantastic device, and you should use them in all of your fiction, whether you're writing romance or not. But what a love triangle does is it gives anticipation to the reader or to the viewer.
Oh my God, what's up? How's it going? Thank you for the raid. How are you? My alerts are kind of fucked for some reason. The sound on them reset, sadly. But welcome everyone. How's it going? It's been a while. I haven't had very many viewers, so I haven't been able to host on Kick, because you need five viewers, and as soon as I'm like raiding out on Twitch, everyone leaves, so I don't have anyone, you know. And I should raid out on Kick first, you know, if I have enough people at the moment. But it is what it is. So how are you? How's it going? How have you been? Kind of talking about sex.
Who are they gonna choose?
We're doing love triangles.
Love triangle is turning away from Steve and turning toward Jonathan. Bad love triangles often don't have that story arc. They usually present two options and then just keep us there in limbo for as long as possible. 8, use a theme. So the strong theme in Stranger Things, as you probably know, is Dungeons and Dragons. On a marketing side, this is genius, right?
Not too bad, thank you for asking. No worries. Yeah, our new short story, I watched PBS Space Time, so I need to knock off. Hope you're well. Oh, I'm doing fantastic. It's just another day, and we're doing great. Thank you for asking. Hell yeah. No worries, have a good night. Take care, sleep well. Thanks for the raid again. Appreciate it so much. And again, welcome everyone.
Right? Because it provides a very loyal fan base. But it also provides all these different layers of interpretation. You have the Upside Down, which is kind of like the Plane of Shadows. You have monsters that they name with terms from Dungeons and Dragons, like the Demogorgon, like the Mind Flayer. So what this does is it creates this whole mythology that enriches the storyline and allows people to sort of geek out online and be like, ooh, look at all these fun things that I found. Look at all these different ways you can interpret the story, not in terms only of itself, but also in terms of like the original source material of Dungeons and Dragons. If you can find some source material like that for your book, I would recommend that you use it.
Final Fantasy
9. Be
100% Final Fantasy 9. Be nostalgic.
Nostalgic. don't be afraid to fully embody a time period in your book. Stranger Things goes full force into 80s nostalgia. There's no cell phones, they're biking around in the dark, there's Cold War fears of Russian spies, and of course there's Egos. Lego my Ego. Not only that, but we have a ton of allusions to movies of that era. We have tons of E.T. references, like when they're trying to bike away from the agents in the vans, and then Elle flips that van. You have allusions to movies like Jaws, which if you read interviews with the writers, they say that Jaws actually inspired the Demogorgon. You have touch points with movies like Goonies. I mean, Dustin as the comedic relief is very Goonies-like. And there's also some Stand By Me vibes. So really embrace the time period that you're writing in and find ways to make it feel like that time period.
Problem with the time period thing is in this fantasy world, right? But it's still like we have kind of the idea of cell phones with like comm pearls and stuff like that. So communication is widespread. That magic facilitates that, but there's no technology. But magic is the facilitation of it. And then when you enter technology into it, it almost becomes not quite sci-fi, but just, you know, that clash of technology and magic.
You are in
right?
for it now.
We're not going to space, but we
Take
do
those
have
sexy
basically
glasses off
spacesuits
like a good
because
girl.
they're underneath
You don't
water.
need to see what happens next.
Thanks, book. I appreciate it. Yeah, I don't need my glasses, guys. It's completely okay. There's no worries whatsoever. I can get by without them. We'll be fine.
And don't be afraid to allude to a lot of other storylines as well. 10,
Which is why, like, with the plays and dances and stuff like that, and especially with Varius, like I said, I want him to be like fucking Shakespeare. The Shakespeare of his time. So he, like, talks completely differently, and I literally want to, like, make him talk like Shakespeare writes. With, like, the old English kind of style to it, and, like, misplaced words, and, like, fucking up the sentence as much as possible to make the sentence feel, if that makes sense. So that'll probably be one of the hardest characters to write.
I miss
But
my
I think
sexy
it's probably,
librarian.
like,
You
my
can put
favorite
those sweet
character.
sight setters back and play slut.
If I can do that character properly. The true power of a bard and the support carry. Because, like, in games, like, I'm always the support. So, it's kind of like my self-representation of what a support truly embodies in a party and how people always downplay what the support does.
Do not drink water. Do not
Smokey, welcome. How's it going, brother? How are
Do
you,
not go to the
buddy?
bathroom.
How's
Have
your
another
day
Coke.
going? Welcome. Smokey, you missed yesterday. Yesterday was fucking badass as fuck. And again today. Actually, you missed it. We just got a raid from Amy Babes. But yesterday we got a raid from someone named Lucia W. Well, we were playing Sekiro. That was fucking badass. We've been popping off, boys. I wouldn't raid me either, Smokey. You know who I would raid? People forget the supporting characters dictate how main characters move sometimes. Yeah. The Delinquent. Welcome. How's it going, brother? Wow, someone on Kick. I know, right, Smokey? It's phenomenal, because, like, literally, I'm the only one who's ever on the writing category, and you're the only one who watches me, Smokey, and you don't even write. So that goes to show, like, how dead the writing category on Kick is. But that's okay, because Rumble doesn't have one, and neither does X. So the only platform I stream on that actually has a writing category is Twitch. Which is kind of ridiculous. Which is why I actually made a tweet earlier to Roach Ranch, which is Asmon's thing. Where is Roach Ranch? I missed it. It's somewhere here.
So many words, but not much token.
Yeah. If Asmon ever gets around to improvements of Twitter streaming, please add a category for reading and writing. I know it's a niche, but it doesn't have to be. Love you. True. It's niche, but as the saying goes, get in where you fit in. Nothing wrong with that. Yeah, exactly. I completely, and it's like, I'm just doing this for myself at the end of the day to hold myself accountable. If anyone wants to tag along, I'm fucking super ecstatic that they want to, and, you know, I'm trying to improve the content to a point, but it's like, it is a very niche content, so you have to add your personality on top of it, right? And I think the things that we talk about and the things that we do could potentially be moving it outside of a niche audience, because we like to go fucking hard. We don't pussyfoot around our fucking stories. We write about pretty much fucking anything from Hunter Biden crashing the Air Force One into the Burj Khalifa, to people eating themselves, to serial killers addicted to farting sounds, to parables about things about life. Like, for instance, don't chew gum after you get your tongue frozen or your mouth frozen at the dentist. You're gonna chew your tongue off. So kid chews his fucking tongue off. Story about addiction, I guess, for like cryogen, for like being addicted to like small things and numbers, like gainings, like you addicted to like your gains to the point that you don't ever use them. You only use your means to gain more means. Now I have a cooldown. I spoke to Sharon. Sharon. True, Smokey. True. Fucking ad breaks. Okay, we're on an ad break. She told me to contact him. He's probably so glad. He's probably back in his, like, 22-year-old body. He's down there partying with fucking, everyone. Having a good fucking time of it. Being the king. He moved from being the Prince of Darkness to the King of Darkness. He will rule us all. We'll watch a Denki. Oh, dude, that's a good idea, Smokey. That's a good idea. I wonder if, they're gonna do, like, an obituary-style one within the next year or so. Usually they give it a little bit of time, but I wonder about that. Because everyone, like, he did it on his own, right? Like, he did it on his own terms. So, I'm pretty sure this was been set up for, like, a while. So, it is what it is. So there's probably a little bit of difference between, somebody like Hulk Hogan who just randomly dies. The guy who should have died 2,000 plus times. Yeah, I believe that, Smokey. Definitely. I closed Twitch by accident. Opening a Google tab to search for a name, Shakespeare, is difficult to translate. You can go with Louis Astronomerans translation, which attempts to replicate the speech and linguistic flourishes of his English to a certain extent. Or it can go with Mendez Y. Palaio's translation, which is simpler, but that one simplicity shows how clean Shakespeare's style is. I just meant, Raymond, you know how I do like really fucked up set, like this would be Various talking. Let's see. This is Various talking about let's say using a flute versus using a harp, let's say. Okay, let's see. It'd be like, the validation of note upon this threshold thrives in each one, yet upon for the winds that blow within such a chime shall call not the strings plucked on that which I call mine. And that'd be him being like, yeah, I prefer the harp over the flute. Does that make sense? But very, like, very esoteric and romantically out of place, right? Just, like, completely fucking random. And he only does it, like, sometimes. What is the Discord link? You can do !! Discord. And, yeah, feel free to drop in the public stories, anything you want me to read, and in the Writers Unleashed community, feel free to promote anything that you have.
1989-ish?
So you have been lying. Now makes sense that
Like, goes super, broke for his speech. Yeah.
I'll say it. Her 3-pack-a-day voice?
And it's gonna be, like, all over the place, too, to the point that you, like, this character is, like, super fucking hard to understand, and even the other characters with, like, translation, like, things, is still like, what the fuck is he talking about? And that'll show, like, the extent of, like, Various' character in this aspect is how far out of reach intelligence can be on a level for understanding. So it kind of makes the reader understand the way that the Beastmen hear people, right? And it's like, just, it's too complicated for them. You have to, like, sit down, just go through every single word, and make it very simple, or the concepts are beyond their imagining, right? Whereas that's where Varius is almost a step up in it, where he is on this fantastic level that even the most mundane thing has the light of essence that guides the soul upon its enticement. By vision or sound or sight, we follow through with that which is not within the blood. I don't know. Thank you for all the follows, guys. I super appreciate it, guys. We are definitely falling behind on the means of Kit. We're great on Twitch, but yeah. I don't feel like I've been neglecting Kick. I just haven't had any viewers to the point that I can host anymore. It makes discovering a lot harder, you know. Biggest thing is like discovering other people through hosting. I try to host a bunch of different people, but lately it just hasn't been around. Smokey has been my only valiant Kickian, so I'm glad to have more people. I always try to support other people because that's like the most important thing to do, is create a community of self-support, essentially. And then you just branch out from there, right? You build your small niche, and then the personality and the content will carry you to greater lengths if it is of, worth to people. And I hope, I can inspire people to start writing or, using creativity, and in essence, it doesn't necessarily need to be writing, right? Any kind of creativity, screenplay, like short stories, movies, like art. No worries, it's the twilight hours at the moment is all. Oh yeah, that's the biggest problem too, right? Like for me it is 1:39 a.m. It's just the only time I can stream, so that's what it is. It's a bad time slot, but you make the most of what you got, right? Sorry, my Twitch is not strong enough for a kick. True blessed. You, Ichimatadas. What a wonderful phrase. You Ichimatadas, or else I'll be crazed. It means no worries for the rest of today. It's your bitchin' free philosophy, you Ichimatadas. True, Sean. There can be only one. The Ichi. Oh. Timon and Puma need to sing that. I mean, Wait for AI, and then you can do it yourself. Give it 5 years. Alright, what's number 10, guys? Number 10. Let's find out.
Unite your diverging plot.
Unite your diverging plot lines. That's why it's like I have like this idea of like a timeline. So there's just like this. Here, I'll give you guys a representation of it. Basically, we have a line, and then on that line, on the top, you have all of the main plots, and they'll pull away from it and do their own thing, and then come back down. So one's opening and one's closing, and you'll have a bunch of them kind of, you know, going like this throughout the story. And these are like, you know, for instance, like, this is the attack on, or this is like the discovery of the Beastmen hordes. This is
Hello.
preparing
It
for
is
the
I, your
attack on
beloved King
Garuda.
Julian, and I shall be your therapist
True.
for today. Now tell me your problems. Wait, I've heard enough. The problem with you is that you are not ME. I think we've made a real breakthrough here.
True, Sean. That's what it's all about. And this is like the attack on Garuda, the fall of Garuda, the death of Zaid. And then, you know, this is all trying to find the 100-year quest, and Atomus, and this is, like, getting Fafnir on their side for the second confrontation, and then this is lighting the fires of Atomus and getting everything ready for the final battle, and then this is, you know, the confrontation of the Monarch. Then you have, like, all of the subplots. And if there's any plot that goes like this, because you know that that plot hasn't closed. So it's an open plot. So either you have to close it in some way or you have to get rid of the plot. The only open plot that we really kind of leave from the beginning to the end is who placed the calm pearl on Husai's desk. I guess it's not gonna freaking. And that's the only one that we have left open, because we're not quite sure if we're going to solve that one or not. That'll just be like the open mystery throughout the entire thing that you have assumptions and inferences for, but you don't actually know who did it.
Lines. What's great about Stranger Things is you have a lot of different plot lines, but everyone is very busy and active trying to solve the problems in their own ways. For instance, you have Jonathan and Nancy buying monster fighting gear and then going out and trying to find this monster. You have Mike and the boys going out and investigating mysterious areas with Elle. And then of course you have Joyce, who set up all the Christmas lights and is trying to like contact her son through this very seance-y way. But eventually, and this is something you have to think about,
literally,
when you have all these different storylines, at what point do those storylines converge? And how do they converge? And where do they converge? At one point after Jonathan gets in a fight, he and Nancy end up combining their knowledge with Hopper and Joyce's knowledge, and suddenly they're a little bit closer to solving the problem. But I will say that you need to be very careful about where this takes place in the storyline. Their pooling of knowledge takes place about 3/4 of the way through the storyline. And here's our very last one, number 11, in honor of 11, how not to botch a cliffhanger. So I hear all the time about how
not to botch a cliffhanger.
angry writers are when there's like a horrible cliffhanger at the end of book 1 and they have to buy book 2 to figure out what happens. I think your goal as a writer is not to make people angry. Yes, you want them to buy book 2, but...
Well, that's why it's like the end of the series is like that. Because the end of book 1, yeah, sure, Fafnir dies, they get defeated, they fall into the roots. But it's also the reveal of the Warriors of Light. So it's like, oh, well, shit, now... You know, we lost, like, the main mentor, like, grand, ancient, powerful character, and now we've gained the prophesized characters that were told at the beginning of the book were basically going to be the saviors of everything. And now we've introduced them, and they're, like, you know, protecting the main characters now. And it's like they've been a part of the party the entire time, but their importance and relevance hasn't been revealed until this moment when they actually pull out their top-tier gear and armor and start trying to defend Fafnir. Or, like, well, Fafnir is, like, you know, doing his thing. Because Fafnir knows they're the Warriors of Light. So maybe Fafnir, because this is all, like, still, you know, up in the air as to what actually is going to happen. Okay, new isekai on RR titled Isekai by Wrong Number. Right? That's a new take.
Oh, there it goes. That's the face
True.
only a mother can love.
Wrong number. Phone the wrong number and you wind up in the wrong universe. I wonder how they actually play that out.
Ultimately, you want them to feel satisfied in your story. So let's look at Stranger Things to figure out how to do a cliffhanger well. I think the way to look at the ending of season 1 is to look at which storylines are closed off and which storylines open up. The storyline solves the main plot problem by having Will rescued. The storyline also solves the main antagonist by having the Demogorgon defeated. The storyline solves the main love tension by having Mike finally profess his love for Elle. And we also get this wonderful character change with Steve, where at the beginning he's sort of like this awful human being, but then he becomes courageous and actually like fights the monster. So there's all these storylines that close up very neatly and in a very emotionally satisfying way. There's just one little...
My guess is you dial a certain number and it counts as a request for transmigration with no takes back.
cliffhanger. Will's in the bathroom and he coughs up this weird mucousy slug-like thing that's from the Upside Down. And so we're wondering like, oh, what does that mean? Is it a cliffhanger? Yes. Is it an emotionally abusive cliffhanger? Absolutely not. We wrapped up all the storylines with season 1, and yet because of that little mucousy snail thing, we're still looking forward to how season 2 will develop. I hope analyzing Stranger Things helped you solve problems.
True. Alright guys, another video done. So that's Bookfox. Go check him out, give him a like, give him a view, give him a comment if you like the video. Always appreciate giving support to other creators. And this guy has helped us a lot with improving our writing. So, he is a teacher and a professor and an editor, so... Have a question for anyone in here. Alright, Sinister, let's do this. What is it, brother? Oh, I guess I should pop these in here as well, just for, in case there's anyone out there, you know? You always gotta believe. It's all about belief. So, yeah. So we passed this test. Another one done. Smash. Next question. Has anyone in here ever contacted a literary agent? No.